Good morning. I'd like to welcome those in the chamber and those listening online for our Weber County Board of Commissioners meeting today, the 29th day of September 2020. I'm Commissioner Gage Frohr. I'll be chairing this morning. To my left, Commissioner Scott Jenkins. To my right, Commissioner Jim Harvey. We welcome you here. We're going to start with a Pledge of Allegiance. I'm showing Chief Arbon to give the pledge, but I don't see the chief here. Invocation by Chris Crockett and Thought of the Day by Commissioner Jenkins. I'll go ahead and lead the pledge if that's all right, since I don't see Sheriff Armbarn. Please rise. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Crockett.
Our Father in heaven, we bow our heads at the beginning of this commission meeting to offer up our thanks. Thanks for the privilege to live and in such a beautiful county and to serve such wonderful people. Father, we ask that thy Spirit be with us in a special blessing as we draw closer to the election, that we will remember to be compassionate, loving, and kind, and remember that we are all in this together. We love thee so very much, dear Heavenly Father, and we ask for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Commissioner Jenkins.
Thank you very much. So, it's good to be here today with all you folks. You know, there's two things I want to say. First of all, Saturday we went to the organizing convention for the political party that I happen to belong to. And as we sit around and talk about it, we complained about how long it took and getting into the weeds and different things like that. But I'm impressed that we can do it. You know, you look at other countries around the world and people can't be involved in their government and they can't be involved in what's happening. And with all the disruptions and everything that we have that's going on in our country right now, I find it a little consoling that we can, in fact, be involved in our government and what's happening. And so I'm excited about that as much so as I've ever been. It wears you out. I admit that. It wears you out. But at least we have the chance to be involved and fight for our rights. And you just have to do it. You have to be involved and do it. And it's a blessing if we take it that way. Second thing I wanted to mention is I had a chance a week and a half ago to hike to Kings Peak, the highest peak in Utah, with Ricky Hatch, our clerk auditor, and Mr. John Bond, our treasurer. And that was a special chance to do something like that. Number one, I was impressed. You know, the quality of people that work at the county, I'm just more and more impressed with. And it was really fun for me to be able to get out and rub shoulders with these two gentlemen. It was a lot of fun. But the second thing I want to mention is, you know, you go to the highest peak in Utah to be able to see the view. Well, we got up on top and we were just in a cloud. And it wasn't a moisture cloud, it was a smoke cloud. You know, Division of Air Quality for the state of Utah, we're involved. When I was in the legislature, I was a committee chair for natural resources, so I oversaw them. And it was interesting to be involved with these guys and talk about air and air quality and what happens. And, you know, we've got to get a handle on allowing these fires to burn. You know, we just got to do it. We're downwinders when it comes to Oregon and Washington. And when those guys, in the Northern California, and when those guys don't take care of their forests and they burn the way they've been doing this last little while, we just wallow in it. And, it's been, I don't know if you've noticed, for the first time in my life, I've actually had some congestion issues in my lungs this last little while. And I went to the doctor the other day, and I thought maybe I was getting a little asthma. And he says, no, everything's okay. He says, this is called 8 weeks of soot and smog and garbage in the atmosphere. And it really has. It's been about 8 weeks that our atmosphere has just been clogged by the upstream fires that have been burning. And we've had our fires in Utah. We do get some here, but nothing like they've had on the West Coast this year. And I tell you, I feel bad because we are truly being drowned in their smoke here. And it's as bad. I don't ever remember a year that the air quality was as poor for as long a period of time as this year. It's just been a tough honking summer if you want to get a breath of fresh air. And even in pristine valleys, like up in the Ogden Valley, you guys suffer the same thing we do when that stuff comes in. I remember I had our Division of Air Quality guy on the stand, and I asked him, I says, is the air that comes into Utah as clean as the air in Utah? And we were talking about some of the air that's coming across the West Coast, even, that we get from China. And he says there's lots of days, probably as many as half the days, that the air coming into Utah is worse than the air here. So, and that's before all these issues. So, I want good air here just like everybody else, and I'm anxious to do everything we can. And that's why I voted this here a few years ago to put the new water heater regulations in. That raised the price of a water heater $200. But they burn cleaner now, and I supported that because, when technology gives us the ability to clean up, we need to do it the best we can. And I agree with that. But in this case, this is out of our control locally. And if they would simply go back to taking care of the forest like they did when we were kids, all this would go away, or a major portion of it, and they just don't do it. So that's my thought for the day.
Thank you. Yeah, great remarks. I just this weekend noticed that the air quality in the Ogden Valley was probably the best I've seen it in, must be 8 weeks, but quite a while.
About 8 weeks.
It was clear. Yeah, finally.
Yeah.
It hasn't been for a while. Thank you for those remarks.
You bet.
Okay, let's go to public comments. Anybody in the chamber that would like to come forward and address the commission, now's the time. Or do we have anybody online, Christy? Let's put forth a comment. Okay, seeing nobody in the chamber wishing to come forward, let's go to our consent items, commissioners. So let's go to agenda items F, 1 through 5. Number 1, request for approval of warrants 3093 through 3128 and 452-912 through 453-158 in the amount of $1,935,752.96. Number 2, request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $108,346.61. 3, request for approval of the minutes for meeting held on September 22nd, 2020. 4, request for approval to ratify a contract by and between Weber County and Upstage Cruise Services to upgrade the Peary's Egyptian Theater lighting system. And 5, request to sell surplus property, parcel number 137512. That's our consent items for today. Commissioners, comments, questions?
I do have some questions.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair. on our warrants, you know, you get to the point where you can pick some of these out, but others you can't. And the one I had in there was on page 4, Avaya Inc. It just says IT telephone. It doesn't say anything else. And it's $110,000. It's a whopper. Ricky, can you tell me what that is?
I can give you a little bit more detail. It's a mixture of software and equipment, and the Avaya is the telephone service that we use throughout this building. I think countywide is what we use, and so it's a mixture of the hardware, which phones are replaced periodically, as well as software maintenance.
Normally, when we do stuff like that that's scheduled, we do it on a purchase order, and I don't remember a purchase order.
Commissioner, I believe the Avaya system, I see Jason in the back of the room. I believe the Avaya system is on contract. He's nodding his head to the affirmative. And so that's something that would have been done through Quinn Fowers of our IT department, probably be a contract on that.
Yeah, I'm looking at some information right now.
Okay. While he's looking that up, any your additional questions, Commissioner?
OCLC Inc., Library System Special Supplies. Normally, I wouldn't ask about this, the library system, because she's really good at what she does, but it happens to be exactly $25,000. And it's kind of like, that doesn't look like a purchase. It says special services. So that's like it's a contract or something we've paid.
Yeah, the description here says CCP LTF record delivery. And I apologize, I don't know the details surrounding that one.
Commissioner
Harvey?
Well, I don't know.
I'm not sure on that one either.
Yeah, you know, I always try to run through these, and that's just one I couldn't identify. There was one other one in here. Rocky Enterprises, LLC, DBA, Subway 1287, Statutory Non-Department Special Projects. I could not identify that. $17,500.
That's CARES Act money, CARES Act grants.
Okay.
That's a grant? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, great. That was it. I'm sorry to belabor you on these kind of deals.
No, always enough time to talk about finances. Maybe you could get with Jason, he could clarify that first one for you.
You know, normally I try to call them prior to this meeting. In fact, we even had a meeting set up, but I forgot to do that today, so I apologize for that.
Well, we were a little busy in budget session
Yeah.
too, so time was running short.
I have information from the IT director if you want.
Go ahead, Ricky.
He says that's the phone system maintenance, which includes all phones, servers, and software licensing and support.
So, phone maintenance?
Yeah, phone system maintenance, and that includes the phone software, servers, licensing, and support.
So that's part of our contract with them.
Yeah, looks like it.
Okay.
So that would be through the IT, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Ricky, before we go to a motion, any further explanation on any of those items? Go ahead and clarify.
You bet. I can give you overviews.
Yeah.
We issued 21 purchase orders for $108,000. About a quarter of that amount, or $25,000, is for the library. And these are the POs, not the OCLC that we were just talking about. This is for engineering services, as well as book trucks and barcode labels. 12% or $13,000 is for elections, and that will purchase COVID shields for poll workers. 11% or $12,000 is for the jail, that will purchase inmate clothing, and 9% or $10,000 is for parks, and that is for the foundation and decks for the yurts. We issued 283 checks for $1.9 million. 21% of that amount, or $414,000, is for road construction, at 2550 South and 5500 South. 16% or $317,000 is for theater lighting, as well as escrow release at Trappers Ridge, and then the purchase of junior livestock hog panels. We had 2 items at 10% or just under $200,000, and those were the monthly contributions for both paramedic services and Weber Human Services. We had 3 items around 6 and 7% or $125,000. The housing payments on behalf of Weber Housing Authority, the telephone equipment and software that we talked about earlier, and then public defender services. And then lastly, we spent $99,000 or 5% of the check run on road striping.
Thank you. Any additional questions for Ricky before we move forward? If not, I'd entertain a motion on the consent items, Commissioners.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions and move for a motion to accept the consent items. F on our agenda 1 through 5 as they were presented.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Harvey.
Second.
And we have a second, Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you. Let's go to our action items, G1, which is actually Resolution 31. Request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County approving an interlocal agreement for the distributions of CARES Act funding to Ogden City. Mr. Chris Crockett.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll do a brief explanation of the technical details, and then I'll see if Mr. John Bond, who has really been the individual in the trenches working this to distribute these CARES Act funds, if he has anything he would like to add. The Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, known as the CARES Act, are federal dollars that were passed down to the state. The state has in turn passed those dollars down to county governments and municipalities. They're used to cover necessary expenditures and losses incurred due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. I wanted to read a couple of provisions from this interlocal. I know that you are all very familiar with this, but I think this will highlight to the public the important work that is being done for our small businesses and nonprofits. It says, whereas necessary expenditures include direct emergency response activities such as addressing public health needs, but also expenses required to respond to second-order effects of COVID-19, such as providing economic support to small businesses and nonprofit organizations that have been negatively impacted by the pandemic. The county and city both recognize an immediate need to distribute CR funds to provide economic relief to our small businesses and nonprofit organizations. And whereas the county and city agree that a collective financial effort to distribute CR funds will ensure that small businesses and nonprofits receive the maximum amount of financial relief possible in an effort to sustain our community during these challenging times. This agreement is for Weber County to allocate $3 million of CR funds to Ogden City on a reimbursement basis for grants awarded under Ogden City's nonprofit program. This is done in hopes that it will free up money that Ogden City can in turn use their CR funds to help small businesses within Ogden City. Those are the technical portions of the agreement. John, is there anything you would like to add, or are there any questions the commissioners have?
We're going to listen to John first.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
We were pleased to announce that a week ago that Ogden City passed this resolution to engage with this interlocal agreement with Weber County. It does really 3 things. It provides, they've adopted a lot of the program that we did as far as small businesses, as far as the mechanics of it, and they've also adopted a marketing program with that, number 2, that I've been tracking every day since it started a week and a half ago, and seen a lot of success with that. And thirdly, it provides a conduit for us to move about $3 million to them to sponsor a nonprofit program for the CARES Act. So the CARES Act has been very beneficial for a lot of businesses in Weber County. Currently, we've got 475 businesses that were benefited by about $7.4 million. We've got another couple of hundred in round 2 that are in the review process right now. We anticipate by the middle of October of dispersing those. But we've joined with 13 other cities in our first round as far as small business application. joining with Ogden City on this part for nonprofits countywide has been a huge lift for our community, and I just appreciate you commissioners working arm in arm with them to get us to this point. So thank you very much for your help.
John, thank you. As you know, this was not an easy lift with Ogden City at some point in time, but I think we arrived at a good point.
We did.
And that point was to help the nonprofits, large majority of which reside within Ogden City limits, which obviously they did not have the funds available for that, and also encourage them to take a stronger look at small business located within Ogden City and use some of the county CARES Act funding to help those small businesses located within Ogden City. And it appears from this interlocal that we worked on with Mr. Crockett, it accomplishes those two goals. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Questions, commissioners?
No, wonderful job. I know that there were a lot of interactions with the commission, but especially with you, Mr. Bond, as it related to making sure that the relationship between the city and the county was solid and best served all the people in that area. This is a great thing for the people of Ogden City, and I hope they appreciate the work joining together the county and the city's done here.
No, it's very exciting. We're very
Thank you
excited
for
about this.
facilitating that with your team. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So, Mr. Chair, I had a opportunity the other day to participate with Mayor Caldwell from Ogden City
Correct.
on a Facebook Live presentation, and in that presentation, multiple times, John Bond's name came up, and our other members of the county. They appreciated us working with them on this.
Cool.
And so those are kudos to you, and I want to make sure I passed them along.
You're very kind. We got a good team. We've got a good team.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Mr.
No,
Bond?
no, sir.
Mr. Crockett, anything else?
No, this will just be a resolution, and that will allow you to sign the interlocal agreement.
Mr. Chair, can we get a copy of the video of that Facebook Live event that Commissioner Jenkins did?
I'm sure we can make that and memorialize it. Yeah, I think that's probably a good thing. Okay, so seeing no other questions, comments, let's go to the roll call vote.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Resolution 31 for the CARES Act funding between the Weber County and Ogden City.
Thank you. We have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second. Now the roll call.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey,
Aye.
Chair Faur,
Aye. Thank you. Carries. Resolution's approved. Let's go to action item G2, request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Roper Buildings, DBA DMLP Resources LLC, for property management to be used for storage and operation of department functions. Mr. Bryce Taylor, welcome.
Thank you. This is a contract in front of you to approval for two buildings. They are both 50 by 100 size. We're having these built for the operation of property management and move out of a facility that we've been renting and get to our own facility.
Good. Okay, I think we're aware of this. Commissioner Jenkins, this is your...
It is. These folks have been leasing a building from Post Paving, and they were given notice some time ago that they'd like their building back. And so we have a payment that they've been making to finance these with, and we're excited to get them in a place of their own. And we found a little spot over there by the sheriff's place, and of course we're all aware of that. So I highly approve of this, help put it together, and recommend that we approve it.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion on that?
I do. I'd make a motion that we request the approval of the contract by and between Weber County and Roper Buildings to put up the two new pole buildings for storage and at the new property management facility on 12th Street.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Jenkins.
I'll second that.
And we have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing no, I'm going to seeing none, place a motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you, Bryce.
Thank you.
Let's go to agenda item 3, request for approval of a resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Weber County creating an overlay district for municipal type services to be provided and for the associated taxes to be levied. Mr. Scott Park, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I just wanted to give you a quick background as to what we're doing and why we're doing it. So in the lower valley, so that's from the mountain west, it costs on average about $1,000 per mile to remove snow during the winter. That's the cost of the snow plows going back and forth and the salt. In the upper valley, so that's from the mountains east, so the Ogden Valley, it costs us about $7,000 a mile. So when it starts to snow, it starts snowing up there sooner than it does down in the lower valley. When it snows more in the upper valley than it does in the lower valley, and it lasts a little bit longer. So the costs are about 7 times. So $7 for every dollar spent in the lower valley, we spend $7 in the upper valley. Now, to give you an idea, on the top of Powder Mountain, so off of Summit Road, it costs us a little over $50,000 a mile to remove snow up there. So what's been happening is that we have one roads department with one municipal services fund tax rate, and so everybody in the lower valley and in the upper valley has been helping to subsidize the snow removal costs of those that live on the top of Powder Mountain off of that Summit Pass Road. So what you have before you is a resolution to create an overlay district for municipal type services to be known as the Summit Road Overlay District. And what we're doing is we're drawing a boundary on a map off, so basically any property that's accessed off that Summit Pass Road, which is the road at the very, very top of Powder Mountain. Anybody who's on that road, we're going to add an overlay district, which basically we're going to set a tax rate to help cover the cost of snow removal just on that road. So what we've done is we've done an analysis. We've taken all the revenues and all the expenditures in the municipal services fund, and we've divided it up so we know the property tax is being paid up there, because they do pay a little bit more on average in property tax because they have some nicer homes up there, but they also have a lot higher snow removal cost. And so we've done our analysis to calculate what that amount is, and we'll present to that to the commissioners during our budget cycle. But for now, we would like to establish that district so that we can go down the process of adding a tax through truth in taxation to cover the cost of that snow removal.
Great. Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments?
No, this is something that's been worked on for quite some time. A lot of work and math has gone into this, as well as data collection. I think it's a fair approach and certainly a step in the right direction. Appreciate you quantifying those served miles for us, Scott, and with you, Sean, and your crew with Joe Hadley. Done a wonderful job under Commissioner Jenkins' portfolio here. This is, I think, the right thing to do, and so I'm all for it.
Thank you. So really, Scott, this is an effort to make sure those citizens that had concerns that were addressed last year when we had truth in taxation about paying for services or paying more for services than they actually received. So this is a step that was driven by the public, pretty much from the valley, that said, look, we are a major revenue source, and yet you charge us more. This is a perfect example now of allocating those costs and trying to equalize the payments for our cost. Is that accurate?
Yeah, the intention is for those who use the services to pay for the services.
Right. So it's really a paid for services that I believe makes a lot of sense. Commissioner Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, you know, we've not left a stone unturned here. We've done everything we can to try to give this road away, to try to talk them into plowing it, to try to do about everything we could.
Leverage UDOT?
In fact, yeah, Commissioner Harvey the other day in a meeting told them we'd plow all the way to the top of Monty for them if they'd take this road. And I believe it'd be cheaper. Yep. This road just never stops. And until you're on top of that mountain in a windstorm and watch them trying to clear this road, it's just, you can hardly believe what's going on up there. So we've tried, and it's about time that we appropriate the cost to where they go, because we can't offload this. We've tried. Every way possible we've tried. and we just can't. So if we're going to have to do it, it's only fair that those folks that we serve pay for it. And it's just going to get worse because they just received a loan, their loan, and they told us that they're going to develop 100 more lots with that. So they're just going to bring more people up there, and this will just continue. So as this puts us in a position as a county where we can keep those expenses commensurate with the people who are up there and the service they want. So I suspect as time goes on, it won't be too much longer before we'll be plowing or removing snow from that road 24/7. We'll be up there every hour of every day all winter long. And if that's the case, we have to be prepared to pay for this. And so it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
So
And then
I support this.
And we will be having discussions on truth and taxation as we go down the road. So all this does is create the overlay district that gives us the ability to move forward.
Yeah, it's just the first step in the process. So first, we'll create the district, and then in our budget hearings, we'll go through a truth and taxation process for the newly created district.
And I just wanted to clarify one thing, which you mentioned everybody, but everybody would be those people living in the unincorporated areas of Weber County and unincorporated areas of the Upper Valley. Which
Yes,
is
that is
entire.
correct. I apologize. Yes, it's
Yeah,
only
so-
the unincorporated area residents that are
So
paying.
if you're living in Ogden City, it's not Ogden City, West Haven.
Yeah,
you're
this
not
doesn't
benefiting.
affect you at all.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for that explanation. Other
All
questions?
right. Well, I'd be glad to make a motion.
Please do.
I'd make a motion that we approve line item G3, which is Resolution 32, which is the creating of an overlay district for municipal-type services, mainly snow removal, to be provided in this overlay zone at the top of Powder Mountain / Summit, whatever we want to call it up there.
Thank
I'd
you. We
make
have a
that
motion,
motion.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Second?
And we have a second. Roll call vote.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Floor?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Scott. Great work on that. Let's go to G4, consideration and action on a request for final approval of the Halcyon Estates PRUD consisting of 39 lots located approximately 4100 west, 1800 south, Ogden. Mr. Steve Burton.
Good morning, Commissioners. What you have before you today is the final step in the approval process for this subdivision known as Halcyon Estates. Originally, it had 39 lots. Currently, they've taken one away, so it's got 38 lots. The lots, it's out in the A1 zone, just there off of 1800 South and Western Weber. Lot sizes range from about 10,000 square feet all the way up to an acre. You've also got a 10-acre agricultural parcel as part of their PRUD. This received final approval from the Planning Commission back in April, and the developer's been working on improvements since then, and it's now ready to record. We also have a subdivision improvement agreement for your approval in the amount of $305,620.10 for the remaining subdivision improvements to be installed. I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Steve. Questions for Steve?
No questions. This has been before us for quite some time. I appreciate you wrapping this up and getting it ready. I'm sure the developer's ready to move forward with it.
Yep, absolutely.
There's
Okay.
no other questions, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion that we approve the Halcyon Estates PRUD consisting of the 39 lots as presented by Mr. Burton today.
Thank you. We have a motion, Commissioner Harvey.
Second?
We have a second. Commissioner Jenkins. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's go to our public hearing. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn a public meeting and convene as a public hearing.
So move.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We're now in a public hearing. Public hearing to consider and take action on a proposal to vacate a portion of Old Snow Basin Road located at approximately 6213 East, Old Snow Basin Road, Huntsville, Utah. Mr. Burton, you're back on.
Yes, Commissioners, the county has received a request to vacate a portion of its public right-of-way along Old Snow Basin Road. This is something that we've met multiple times with over the past year or so. We're at the point now where we have an ordinance ready to have that vacated. We did send out notice because this is a public hearing, so I imagine there might be some people that want to speak to it. The county is not conveying any property with this vacation. It's simply vacating its right-of-way, and then there's a process for whoever might be adjacent to that vacated portion to make a claim to it. So we are proposing that portion be vacated. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Questions for Mr. Burton? Again, this is something that I think we've had in discussions for close to a year now. This is not one of the first opportunities we've had to vacate properties, my understanding, on Old Snow Basin Road. This deals with the original road that had those large turnarounds.
Correct.
That I think that we felt and the property owners felt was better to get in the hands of private ownership so we could collect taxes, as well as save some possible county dollars for snow plowing, et cetera. So I think we agreed this was probably a good move. But additional questions or comments? Commissioners, if not, let's go to, let's have public comments on this particular item while we're here. Anybody that would like to, from the chamber and or line, that would like to make a public comment on that? Seeing none, let's go to agenda item H3 on our public hearing, which is a public hearing to consider and take action on a vacation of a 10-foot public utility easement located along the southwest line of Lot 1, Highland Cove Estates subdivision. Mr. Perks, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. I must apologize. I'm a bit congested today with allergies and that smoke you were talking about there, Commissioner Jenkins. So I'll try to get through this. But yes, this is a request to vacate a 10-foot public utility easement along the rear property line of Lot 1 of Highland Cove Estates. This particular easement has been reviewed by the county engineer, and they have expressed that they don't have any concerns with the vacation of this easement. The applicant is requesting this vacation in order to better site an accessory structure along that rear property line. Staff has issued public notice to adjacent landowners who may be affected by this easement, and also to any potential affected entities such as Weber Basin Water, Comcast, CenturyLink, South Ogden City, etc. We have not received any concerns based on those notices that were issued, and we do recommend that this easement be vacated. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Perks. Questions for Scott?
Question I have, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So this is just a little 10-foot parcel at the back of a lot.
Yeah, it's just an easement on the back of that lot.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it was originally designed to support the other lots, no longer required.
Yeah, the subdivision was developed back in the 90s, and from my
Sure.
understanding, there are no easements in that area.
So the way I look at this, Mr. Chair, this is just a cleanup.
Yeah, I think so. Gives the property owner a little more control of what
Yep.
they do.
That's correct.
I'm all in favor of this.
Doesn't take anybody's rights away. Okay. Any additional questions, Commissioners? If not,
Just a statement, if I may.
go ahead.
I appreciate very much, from not just this seat, but as a resident of Weber County, I know that this body has really worked hard in eliminating some of these parcels and these cleanup things that you just alluded to, Commissioner Jenkins, on these parcels. There are hundreds, if not 1,000 of them in Weber County. And one and one, we just keep picking them off, that perpetuates into perpetuity for the positive way of we're running Weber County business. And so I appreciate what you've done here. Thank you.
Okay. We would now go to public comments. Please come forward. And just give us your name if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. My name is Scott Waterfall. I live at 2060 Ryan Circle, directly across from the subject.
Okay.
I developed that subdivision in the 90s, and what we're talking about is a 10-foot utility easement that was required by the county for all the subdivided properties. It's standard practice for the county. As I understand, we're not talking about a separate parcel or any type of cleanup. We're talking about a county practice of requiring 10-foot rights-of-way around subdivided properties. I have no objection personally to the easement being vacated if I understand that it's the position of the county that the other 12 homeowners on that street can likewise petition and have those easements around our properties removed and vacated. That may be a slippery slope the commission doesn't want to get on, but if it's good for one, it ought to be good for all. And I would anticipate filing a like petition. I have talked with the 11 other homeowners, and they likewise will do the same thing, and who knows where that will go. But we're not talking about cleanup or just changing lot lines to adjust to current use. We're talking about a county practice, as I understand it, of mandating the 10-foot utility easements around subdivided properties. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. Waterfall?
That's a good point. Do we still require those things, Mr. Grover, and those things, if you would?
Yes, Commissioner. Typically, we require those easements, but there are instances, especially on the sides, where it may not be necessary to have those. We've required them blanket-wise, but that's not always the appropriate thing to do when they're not necessary. And so we're trying to look at them more as subdivisions come on to see if they are necessary or if they're not, before actually just making a blanket statement and requiring them. And so in this situation, if they desired to look at vacating some of those easements, we would look at them on a case-by-case basis and see if it's necessary or not to have those.
As was the practice 20-plus years ago when this subdivision was created, have we improved the process since then? And if so, are there any other things that we need to do moving forward that would help with this?
As far as improving the process, we feel like we've reached out to the different service providers to see if they're necessary in certain instances, and if they're not, that's when we consult with our engineering department and then don't require them at such times. But historically, we have required that blanket easement around all the lots, and that's not always necessarily the best thing to do. If they're in areas where it's fairly flat in through there, sometimes they are drainage easements, and they are necessary in those instances out west. And so in those situations, we'd probably be requiring those type of easements because we want to maintain the drainage and be able to get it off of their property out to the storm system.
But in this case, was a utility easement?
Yeah, in this situation, it was a utility easement, and as we reached out to the different service providers to look at that, if it's necessary or if it's not, and in this situation, it's not. And as Mr. Waterfall has indicated, he may look at some other lots to do that, and if so, then we would look at those on a case-by-case basis to see if it's necessary or if it's not.
But each one would be case by case, and they couldn't just unilaterally be as a group, since...
If they chose to submit as a group and do it that way, we could look at that. But we would look at each one, how it functions on a case-by-case basis, and there may be certain ones that work and there may be certain ones that don't. And so we would have to do the research on each individual one.
Appreciate that answer. Thank you. No other questions?
Yeah, thanks, Rick. I appreciate that. So I think we have an understanding that historically that has been required, that from my conversations with Mr. Grover in planning, that's now looked at on the original plat rather than make that a requirement from without further study, whether it's going to be required in the future. And I'd also agree that this would be analyzed on a case-by-case basis. There probably are some subdivisions out there that would still require the 10-foot utility. That would be up to our service providers. We don't want to get in a situation where we have a lot that's approved that's not serviceable. And that's what my understanding on this case, that they've looked at it and they've analyzed it, and it doesn't create any harm for public future use. So I think that's the answer, Mr. Waterfall. It's a case by case. I think you heard it from Mr. Grover that if you want to submit as a group or as a community, you're more than welcome, but it would still be looked at as a case by case basis. That's not a guarantee that it would be released. Because there are those cases that it's still needed. And we don't want to put any particular private property rights in harm's way without having the ability to have those serviced by our service providers. So Additional comments, commissioners? If not, we would end. I've got to notice we don't have any public comments on Zoom. Is that right, Christy? So I'd look for a motion to adjourn our public hearing and reconvene as a public meeting.
So moved.
And we have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're now in a public meeting. We're out of our public hearing. We're prepared to take action on our public hearing. Let's deal with H2 to begin with, which is to consider and take action on a proposal to vacate a portion of the Old Snow Basin Road located approximately 6213 East Old Snow Basin Road, Huntsville, Utah. Commissioners, back for action.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I don't have any issues with this. So I'd make a motion that we approve line item under 6, H2, Ordinance 18 to vacate the parcel on Old Snow Basin Road.
Okay, that would be Ordinance 18. And we have a motion by Commissioner Jenkins
Second?
and a second by Commissioner Harvey.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Farrar?
Aye. Ordinance 18 is now passed. We'll go to H3, which would be Ordinance 19. Consider and take action on a request to vacate a 10-foot public utility easement located during the southeast lot of Lot 1 of Highland Cove, estate subdivision.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
If it's Ordinance 19, I'd approve.
Ordinance 19.
That's what you mentioned that.
Okay, I would second that and mention to Mr. Waterfall in this that I think he ought to contact Mr. Grover and see if that looks like something we'd be willing to vacate on those others. And I absolutely agree that we should do it if it's not necessary.
Okay, so we did have a motion and a second.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Farrar?
Aye. Ordinance 19 is passed. Thank you. We'll now go to commissioner comments. Commissioners, closing comments.
Don't really have any.
Seeing
There's just, well, for your
some?
just just remind Commissioner Jenkins that we have a no smoking law in the state of Utah, and you just maybe pass that on to your neighbors in Oregon and Washington and Northern California.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, is that it? Just a reminder that our meeting next week, which will be October 6th, will begin at 10:30, not 10 a.m., 10:30 a.m. next Tuesday. Seeing no other business or no additional comments, I'd entertain a final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.